Hello, hello, hello. We are back. Season 5. I am so excited to be here. Oh my gosh, it has been so amazing walking away, taking a break from so many routine day to day things in my working mom life. And I just feel so refreshed, so energized, so ready with content, with guests, with topics, with energy, with so much amazing stuff to bring you this season. So here we are, episode 151, season 5. And we're going to kick this off with back to school stuff because maybe you've already been back in school for a bit. Maybe you just got started within the last few weeks, but either way, this stuff is going to be gold and relevant and helpful. I promise you. In case you're new around here, you're new in town, my name is Marissa Lonick. I am the founder of Mama Work It, where we support women in the juggle of mom life, work life, wife life, fill in the blank life, all the hats we wear, all the roles we play, and making it all work, getting that work-life balance in place here. So today, like I said, we are diving into back to school tips for working moms. I'm going to go over 7 of them. And you guys, this season of back to school was quite different for us. We changed school, so our schedule changed quite a bit. So what was working for me before was no longer working for me now. So I needed to really look at my routines, my systems, and see what I needed to tweak in order to make this work. So with that said, I'm going to give you 7 tips, 7 ideas. These may work for you. These may not. Take what does, leave what doesn't. Maybe you'll get inspired to think of even something else from what I'm sharing with you today. But just know this is always a work in progress. Like, I've been a working mom now for over a decade. I've transitioned schools, schedules multiple times, lived through a global pandemic, as many moms listening also have. This is ever evolving and ever changing. So this is what's working for me right now, these tips. Hopefully some of these will be helpful for you. And with that said, let's dive into these. Okay, so tip number 1 is actually about having a nighttime routine. And I don't just mean like a bedtime routine for kids and things like that. That's absolutely important. It's important in my house. It's critical. So everybody gets to bed on time and gets enough sleep. But I'm talking about more of a nighttime routine to set yourself up for success the next morning. So what do I mean by that? Things that I do in my nighttime routine here are I make sure my kitchen's clean. There is like no better feeling, in my opinion, than waking up to a clean kitchen versus waking up to a kitchen that is not tidy, or there's dishes in the sink, or it's just like the remnants of the night before. So cleaning up the kitchen super fast, nothing crazy, making sure all the counters are wiped down, the dishwasher's loaded and started, or all the dishes are, out of the sink and cleaned. Also prepping things for the next morning, like lunches, snacks, making sure all the water bottles are cleaned and ready to be filled in the morning. Like anything I can do to set myself up for success the next day, I like to do in my nighttime routine. And this is nothing crazy. I just want to stress that. Like, I get it. At the end of the day, you're probably tired. I'm tired too. This takes me no longer than 30 minutes. If 30 minutes feels daunting to you, maybe you need to do a 20-minute nighttime routine or a 15-minute nighttime routine. Whatever you can consistently commit to, I would do. And we've got a whole episode on nighttime routines. I'm going to link that in today's show notes. The number is not coming to mind right now, but I will link it in today's show notes so you can go ahead and listen to that more in depth if that is something that you are interested in instilling in your everyday habits. All right, so solid nighttime routine to get yourself prepped, set up for success the next morning. Next thing I want to talk about is actually a morning routine. And again, this is great for kids and important so that there's consistency and there's like easier, less chaotic mornings, but it's also really important for you to have a morning routine. So I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. Try your best. I know kids wake up early. I know, but try your best to wake up and give yourself some time before everyone in your house is waking up, asking for things, needing things, before you're like in service mode. Because pouring into yourself first thing in the morning is a surefire way to commit to taking care of yourself each and every day. Because so many times we say, oh, I'm going to work out later. I'm going to meditate later. I'm going to read later, whatever it is that we want to do for ourselves. And what happens? Stuff gets in the way. The day doesn't go as planned. Kids get sick or, fill in the blank, whatever it is, like work runs late, traffic, all the things. Waking up first thing and pouring into yourself first thing in the morning with a morning routine for you is like a foolproof way to make that happen. Now, I used to have a much more spacious morning. I'm just going to tell you this. Like I have, again, another episode here that you may want to refer back to, all about morning routines. We will link that in today's show notes. But I just want to say, like, my morning routine has had to adjust quite a bit because our new school schedule is much earlier. Okay. So for the last few years, I was waking up at 5:30 and I had probably a good 90 minutes before my kids were awake and had to get going and get ready for school. And so for those 90 minutes, I was able to work out. I was able to meditate, to journal, to shower, to get myself ready for the day. Like it was a spacious morning for me. It was really nice. Now, friends, I'm waking my kids up an hour earlier than that so we can get out of the house earlier for our new earlier school schedule. And I don't have 90 minutes. And I'm quite frankly, at this stage in life, I'm not willing to wake up to give myself the 90 minutes in the morning. So I've had to sort of recalibrate and readjust this morning routine, but I'm still doing it. And that's the most important and critical thing is I haven't just let it go because the mornings changed. The mornings became different. The mornings felt, busier or tighter. So now I'm giving myself more of an hour. I'm waking up a little bit earlier. I'm waking up at 5 most days, and I've got an hour in there. And I will make sure that I fill that time with, a quick workout, a shower, getting myself ready and put together for the day. And if I can, a few minutes of mindfulness or meditation. If not, I'm definitely fitting that in later in the day because that is really one of those habits that I want to maintain. And I know how critical and important it is to me. But I've had to shift some things around and move some things around. So if you have experienced transition, whether that's in your kids' schedules, in your own work schedule, in your own life schedule, it doesn't mean that these routines, these habits have to just completely get pushed to the side and not done. You can recalibrate, readjust. All right. So nighttime routine, morning routine, these are critical, important. If you want to get more into details about these things, again, I'm going to link those past episodes for you in today's show notes so you can really dive deeper and get an idea of what you could and what you could be filling these with and how you could easily execute them. All right. Tip number 3 is about life hacks. Like we all need a life hack every now and then. Okay. And with these recent schedule changes with my back to school routine, I've definitely had to sort of revisit what new and different life hacks I could be implementing in order to help myself be more successful and thrive in this season. Some of these I've done before and I continue to do, and some of them are new things I've introduced. So one new thing I've introduced this season is actually breakfast to go. So before we had more time in the morning, our school started much later. We were able to sit at the table, have breakfast, like a little more casually. Kids even had time to play in the morning before school. And it was just much more relaxed in that way. We had more options with breakfast because we were home. So cereal with milk was an easy option, things like that. Now I'm finding that with time being a little tighter and me really wanting the kids to ensure they've had enough sleep and not, necessarily create the time and space for that sit down mealtime in the morning, I am all about the breakfast to go. So what am I doing for that? I'm thinking ahead, weekend before or even 2 weekends before, of what I could batch and make in bulk, freeze, and easily just like pop in the microwave and hit the road and go. So ideas that I posted about on my social media are like, muffins, homemade muffins where I can freeze a bunch and just have them in like Ziploc bags ready to go in the car. I've done overnight oats. Those are a little messier in the car, so I'm not sure I'd recommend or do that one again, but you can do those. At least they're ready, and kids can, usually eat those pretty quickly. I've done, let's see, I've made like big batches of pancakes or French toast, or I even bought some protein powder, like some healthy protein powder, and I'm making them smoothies with, protein and fruits and milk and ice and all those things. So these are just some ways that I'm like hacking the mornings to make my back to school season run a little bit more smoothly. Things that I've done in the past that I'm continuing to do. Meal prepping and meal planning. These really make the evening time less chaotic. I go to the grocery store like once a week. Just really being mindful about like what we're going to eat every day and how that fits in to the routines of like sports practices and days that maybe we get home later from school pickup and things like that. Other things are like bento boxes for the kids. They're just so easy to pack and easy to store and all those things, like small bags of snacks. Honestly, I used to think that was kind of wasteful when you buy those little bags of like the snacks that come individually wrapped versus buying the bulk and doing it myself. But I've had to give into this and just be like, you know what? Some conveniences are worth it. So doing like the small individually wrapped snack bags and just grabbing and putting them in the lunches or the snacks or the whatever, versus like bagging them up myself or pouring them in the containers and things like that. And speaking of meal planning, let's dive into number 4, which is really about meal planning. So prepping, doing all those hacks, but also meal planning is really critical for me. And we're going to actually dive a lot deeper into this with an expert when it comes to meal planning in a future episode. So make sure you stay tuned, subscribe, be on the lookout for that one. But I'll just give you a really brief overview of like things that are really beneficial when it comes to meal planning. Because if you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that, it's such a commitment. What if I don't feel like eating it that day? Trust me, I've said all those things. Oh, you guys, meal planning has really changed my life. Like planning ahead for the week ahead allows me to save time, save money, be less wasteful, plan around other things that, I don't necessarily have flexibility over, like schedules with sports or school schedules or work schedules or things like that. So being able to plan around my life, this task that is, something I do in my home, has been really, really beneficial. So plan out for the week, even if it's just Monday through Friday. Give yourself that luxury. Allow yourself, that one grocery run per week. So you're not constantly back and forth at the supermarket. And try this out. Trust me, it makes a world of a difference. And like I said, we are going to go into this topic in a lot more depth with a meal planning expert this season. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss that episode. All right, let's move on to back to school tip number 5, which is all about flexibility, being flexible. Okay, so maybe you're starting a new school this year. Maybe you have a new commute or a new job. Maybe some days you have a different schedule than other days, but it's really, really important to just really be flexible with yourself and with all these changes, or even not changes. Maybe just your kids are growing and changing, but everything else has stayed the same. That's a change in itself. So be flexible. Like Monday may not look like Wednesday, which may not look like Friday, right? Some days in my home, I have extra time in between one drop off and the other drop off. And I will like swing by my house and throw in laundry or clean up breakfast dishes or, do a quick errand in between. Other days, I'm not. Other days I drive straight from one drop off to another. We've got like this 15 to 20 minute lull in between, and we just hang out and we play for a few minutes with my littlest, and we take that time to just be together, and it's very intentional. And so I'm flexible with this. I'm flexible, but I'm also using and planning to use my time with intention. I could very easily just like complain about having these dead 20 minutes, 30 minutes in between drop offs with nothing to do. Or I could be really intentional about how I use that time. So some days I'm going to be, making this extra stop and being productive at home. Other days, maybe I'm running an errand in between. And some days, maybe I'm just using that time to connect one-on-one with my kid. Because when you're a mom of 4 kids, it's not always easy to get one-on-one time with each of your kids. So be flexible, be intentional, and just know that, not every day is going to look the same. All right, let's move on to a very practical tip, which is tip number 6. And it is entitled this: snacks, just snacks. Tip number 6 is snacks. Have them. Have them on hand. Okay. There's probably a lot more driving movement happening now that you're in your back to school season, now that activities maybe have resumed. Maybe you're not on like vacay mode or, relaxed mode from the summer. So snacks are really important. And kids are busier, using more energy. They're going to be hungrier. So always have them on hand, which I don't have to tell you this. You're a mom, But also, I'm going to add in this extra thing here. Like, think about what's in those snacks. Okay. My kids' behavior is almost always tied to whether or not they're hungry or what they've just eaten. So be prepared with snacks on hand, of course. Like, again, going back to school, it takes a lot of energy out of kids all day. Then if they're headed to sports practices or any like extracurriculars, there's an additional amount of energy needed. They need to refuel. But I want you to think about like what they're eating. Does it have protein? Does it have any vitamins? How much sugar is in there? Is it going to give them a rush of energy and then a crash and burn later? So snacks, critical, important, not just having them, but thinking about what those snacks actually are. And if they are resolving a problem for you of like feeding this hunger and really providing the right kind of energy, or if they're just like giving you a quick high of sugar and then a crash and burn later, which you don't want. All right. Tip number 7, our last and final tip of today's episode when it comes to back to school for the working mama, is this: you need to set reasonable expectations. Okay. And I say this for you because I need to hear it too. So I took a lot of time off this summer. I took it easy this summer. I was excited about getting back to work, about re-recording this podcast, about all the projects, all the things that I had put on pause during that time. And I also realized very soon after that I got back in the work swing here that I couldn't just like work myself to the bone just because all of a sudden I had these 5 hours a day to make it happen. I really needed to ensure I was creating a healthy work-life balance. And I wasn't only focused on work, but also like home life environment, things I enjoy doing, connecting with friends, walks outside. So I'm still working out this new balance, to be honest, but that self-awareness piece here, it is so crucial because you can, with that piece, you can really get ahead of potential burnout. You can get ahead of stress, resentment, exhaustion, all places I have been in this working mom life. And if you just have that piece, knowing that, hey, I really need to get there. I feel myself maybe not in a really balanced state. You can more easily know what you need to do to get there. Because if you don't know what you need to do, how are you going to do it? So that piece is really like a prerequisite and important. So check yourself. Are you setting reasonable expectations, or are you putting crazy pressure on yourself? Like, would you expect what you are expecting of you from anyone else? That's a really good check and balance question for yourself. So those are them. Those are my back to school tips for working mamas this year. I needed this episode just like you needed this episode, perhaps. And I hope it's been helpful. As always, if you felt like this episode spoke to you, if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend, leave us a review, let us know. Let me know how it was, and I will catch you next time, Mama. I am so excited for this season. Again, so many incredible guests, so many great topics. Thank you for filling out our survey and letting us know what you wanted to hear about this season. And I will see you soon. Bye.